Hey F1 fans, and welcome to
Formula.
Well done Baku indeed, and dare I say it, championship back on for Max. All I know is my Ferrari delusion let me down yet again with Hamilton out in Q2 and Charles punting it into the barriers in the dying stages of Q3, so there goes all my hopes and dreams. But who should put it on pole? The inevitable Max Verstappen. I should have gone with my head like I wanted to with my predictions, but it is what it is. We will break down what happened over whatever the hell that Baku weekend madness was, but first a few news items to get out the way. We have Horner officially being dumped by Red Bull Racing and was paid out a huge $100 million, and now possibly going to Haas as CEO and team principal, but I'm not too sure how much I buy of this, as AO has only recently made a deal with Toyota Racing to support Haas, and I would think they would want the Japanese engineer to head up the team, so let's just see how this one pans out. There are talks of Horner joining his mate Flavio at Alpine. I mean, how skeevy would that be to have these two at the top? Look, I just don't even want to think about that. We also had links to Ferrari, but I don't think this is even a thought, as it only seems to be rumours based on previous talks at the end of 22, because Vasseur has just signed a new deal, so I think we can kick that can down the road. Also, there are too many heads on the snake at Maranello, and Horner would want full control like he had at Red Bull Racing. Let's not forget he still has the Horn Dog court case in January 26, so the outcome of that will determine if there are any teams that actually still want him as their CEO next year. We are coming up to the Mexico GP soon enough, and there was an announcement that Perez will be testing the Ferrari SF23 for some real-world data so Cadillac can get up to speed a bit quicker with correlation between simulators and track. I hope Checo has seen his chiropractor before getting in the SF23 though, as the porpoising will get him raving like a Monaco yacht party. Now let's get on to the track action, and FP1 was pretty tame, but FP2 ramped it up a bit, with papaya rules coming straight into action after I thought we banished them back in Monza, with Norris in the wall and crabbing back to the pits. Then Piastri, I'm assuming just following team orders to also hit the wall so it makes it fair, please and thank you, although he didn't quite do a good enough job, so in qualifying he tried again, but this time did too good of a job and pumped it into Mr. Barry R, putting him out of Q3. Lando must have then got a similar team order to do the same, but just ignored them with a tiny tap into the turn 15 wall and instead slotted into a pretty lame P7. As for quali, where do I start? There were a record-breaking 6 red flags, and it was actually longer than the shortest race in history of Monza last time out. We had a mix of softs and mediums for quali, but it was the mediums that were the better tyre, as the C6 softs were fading fast towards the end of the lap, which is what we have seen when they have been in the allocation this year. So why would you then send Hamilton out to do the whole Q2 session on one set of softs, and when he asks if he can come for mediums, he's told no, they will take too long to warm up. Ah yes, Ferrari strategy at its best. Shout out to Colapinto, who outqualified Gasly again after crashing out of Q2, when Gasly himself went off down the escape road, leaving Franco nowhere to go. This makes it 3 times out of the last 4 races that he has outqualified Pierre, but it doesn't mean much when he was sitting in a pretty nice P13, and then Albon stuffs a wheel into his side pod to undo all his hard work. And given that the 26 Alpine seat is between Colapinto and Paul Aron, I really hope Flav is seeing what Franco is doing lately and all the hard work he's putting in, because he's starting to show his talent, and it would be nice to see him on the grid next year. On to the race, and that was pretty dull, but we had drama for the Drivers' Championship and first time winner in GT3 rookie Franz Herrmann. Hang on, what's that? It's actually Max Verstappen. Oh, okay, well, title fight back on then. Only 69 points, nice, behind Oscar, which is Andrea Stella saying that they are looking at Max making a comeback and you can't rule him out, but I think much will be determined by Singapore, a track where Max has never been on pole or won at. Red Bull's high downforce setup and low speed handling, including curb riding, has not previously been good points for them. So if Max wins there, it'll be a real statement that they are back to or even surpassed 2023 levels. It's the first back-to-back wins since Canada and Spain in 2024, which was quite a surprising stat. But Max last year had a 63-point gap, and everyone was saying Lando can chase that down. Well, now Max has a 69-point gap to catch up, so I can't see why he isn't firmly back in the championship run, because I would put more money on Max closing down that gap than I would for Lando last year. Max has gained 35 points in the last 2 races, and all he needs is another race weekend like Baku, and it all closes up so much more. Moving forward to the next tracks coming up, and like I have said, I think it'll be a lot to be known in the next race in Singapore, because that has been a bit of a bogey track for Red Bull and Max in this rule reg set. So if the points gap goes up there, then I think we can almost call it. But if this new floor and front wing works, and with the new technical direction Max and Laurent are taking pays off in high downforce tracks like Singapore, then it's definitely back on. Then up after Marina Bay is Austin, a track that Max loves and has had a lot of success at. We also have Mexico after that, which is another favourite of Red Bull and Max's. And what's after Mexico? All right, it's Brazil. And what happened there in last year's race? Can someone remind me, please? If he pulls off another win like that and McLaren have a bad day, then it starts really getting interesting, because Vegas is not a good track for McLaren with its poor low downforce package. And as we have seen, Red Bull now have a great setup for those kind of tracks. So we could see another Max win and a late blowout in the title points gaps. Things are going to be getting real spicy, and after Singapore we will know a lot more. Also, can someone spell DRS train for me? Because I went to sleep before I could type it out. Wowee, what a snoozer. I feel like the qualifying has been banging lately, and then we should pack it up and just not even race, because good God, that was one of the worst Baku bore fests I have seen in a while. We did have some things to talk about though, and like, hey, look what Yuki can do when he gets the same floor as Max. Without the DRS train, his former teammate, and also the guy he replaced at Red Bull, however that works, I mean, it's just Red Bull things that this statement is both confusing and true. But it could have been a lot better for Tsunoda, and I'm hoping this is his turning point. As for Lawson, it's the first time we have been able to talk about him since China, when we found out he was dumped, which, let me just say, was round 2. Yeah, it was that long ago. So well done Liam, and if this progress keeps trending, he can hold on to his seat at Racing Bulls next year. Now, who can forget the jeopardy at the start, with Piastri jumping it and getting a 5-second penalty, but then not being able to serve it because he crashed out only 5 corners later. This would normally be carried into the next race as a grid penalty, similar to Hamilton at Zandvoort, and if you think it was hard to pass here at Baku, then Singapore is like Monaco in terms of overtaking. Fortunately for Oscar, the stewards have said that because it is only a 5-second penalty, and due to the crash and then retirement, they will waive the grid drop, but said if there was a 10-second penalty or multiple penalties, then that would be carried over as a grid penalty. While all this was going on, we had Lando, who not only bottles starts normally, and this one being no exception, losing out to Hadjar, but you can now add restarts to that list, as he was caught napping or trying to do the math with Oscar out of the race and got picked off by Leclerc. I mean, does anyone apart from Max want to win this title? If it is won by one of the McLaren drivers and not Max, after this weekend, I won't feel like it's deserved due to the amount of bottles this season. I have never seen a more placid team battle, and for the Drivers' Championship, Max might come out from this behind the curtain and steal it from them. After all of those shenanigans, we had Lando trying to recover and to undercut Tsunoda and Lawson, but a slow pit stop saw them try to implement papaya rules, but forgot that there was no one to do a driver swap with because Oscar was already out of the race. So a P7 for Lando and only 6 points for the weekend for McLaren, who come here hoping to clinch the Constructors' title, but left with their tails between their legs. Another shout out to George, who despite being sick and making it look like he crawled off his deathbed, to then still getting a podium is surely contract worthy by now. I mean, come on Toto, you're looking pretty silly at this point. We're heading into the triple headers, so nothing will get signed there, and that leaves us at the end of the season without any Mercedes drivers. So everyone apart from the engine department at the factory can just pack it up for the winter, and Mercedes can just be an engine supplier for 26 because they will have no drivers signed. This is just ridiculous now, because what more can George do? He just spawns into another podium, which is typical for 2025 so far. And to be fair, he was very crook, and although all through the weekend and said if it was Singapore this week, he would have pulled out. But luckily he didn't, because the overcut worked quite well, and then bam, there he was. George being sick and pulling out a podium, and Kimi out qualifying Russell to come home in a strong fourth. I mean, is this doing it for you, Toto? What more do you want? We had Sassy Alonso back, and man, he is really done with this year. So much so that he tried to jump the start and see what new he has in line for him next year. When the team told him he had a penalty, instead of raging out and screaming over the radio that he is the unluckiest driver in the world, he just said, "Yeah, okay, that was my fault, sorry." He was then told later in the race he can now pick up the pace, and he just laughed and said, "You've got no idea how bad it actually is." And then after the race, he didn't speak a word to his engineer and would want to just go straight home and let Felipe Drugovich sub in for the rest of the year. Of course, then we have my Ferrari pain, and do we really have to talk about this again? Please, just sort your shit out and actually try for once. I thought we were going to be on for a good weekend, judging by Leclerc's pole record, along with his results that were trending for a win. And apart from a dismal qualifying, I was still pretty hopeful that they had good pace and could both fight their way back up. But no, I forgot it was Baku and it's DRS train city. Hamilton made a few moves early on and went on to a different tyre strategy to try have a go, only to get caught behind previously mentioned train and come home in P8. And although he finally beat his teammate, you then realise it's for P8, with Leclerc P9 for a grand total of 6 points for the weekend. Well done, lads. Okay, that just about caps off the Baku weekend, so now on to star and clown of the day. For star of the day, I should have put Max, but we didn't see him much, and he was just out front dreaming of racing in his GT3 debut this coming weekend. So I'm going to give it to the smooth operator. It's just a better headline, and having disaster weekends and bad luck all year, and then when there was some chaos in qualifying, Carlos was just there, and then he had a really good pace during the race to almost hold off Russell for what would have been a sensational P2. But a podium is still a podium, and at this stage it's well deserved for him and the Williams team, including a first podium for Jimmy V as team principal, so just an all-round feel-good story. As for my clown of the day, it was going to be Ferrari for the pace on Friday, to maybe play for a win, and then to come out of the weekend with the P8 and P9, while also losing second in the Constructors. But I'm also thinking it is either McLaren or maybe Piastri for the whole weekend, or even Norris for not capitalising, or for the pit crew again for the second race running, giving Norris a slow stop. I don't know how. I mean, you guys can decide in the comments, because this was just a shambles all round from these two teams. So we have last bit of news to finish off with, and it's Franz Hermann's GT3 debut tomorrow, or on the 26th if you're watching this later. We will be able to see if he can break the lap record, and it has been rumoured that he has already done it in a private test earlier in the year. He will race in the NLS event held over the weekend in his Ferrari GT3, and it should be interesting to see how he goes with more power and no weight restrictions this time, to battle it out in the class he wants to race in when he retires. I'm sure we'll all be watching his progress and can report back on it in the build up to Singapore. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.